Marcus Vance stepped off the shuttle and onto the polished platform of Andromeda Outpost. He straightened his jacket and took a deep breath of recycled air. For a moment, he let himself feel the thrill of discovery. Years of training and hundreds of missions had led him here, to one of humanity's first true footholds beyond the Milky Way. He had seen wonders before, but today felt different. Today, he would meet the living symbol of a new alliance. The outpost itself was a marvel. Towers of gleaming metal rose beside organic domes that pulsed with light. Bridges arched between structures like smooth ivory, and gardens of strange glowing plants lined the walkways. Everywhere Marcus looked, curious eyes watched him. Scientists, engineers, and diplomats in uniforms from many worlds. They whispered greetings in Earth Standard, Aurelian dialects, and half a dozen other tongues. Marcus offered polite nods but kept his focus on the main hall at the center of the complex. Inside the hall, banners fluttered on invisible wind. One side bore the Earth Alliance crest. The other showed the emblem of the Aurelians, a spiral of silver light. At the far end, a dais waited, ringed by a semicircle of seats. Above the dais hovered an open hologram of both flags blending together. Soft music, unlike anything Marcus had heard on Earth, filled the air. Each note seemed to carry a memory, a promise of unity. He felt its warmth, but he also felt tension. This meeting could change relations across galaxies. Marcus joined the line of ambassadors waiting to be introduced. He glanced at his neighbor, a tall Aurelian diplomat with skin that shimmered like starlight. She smiled and offered a hand which Marcus shook. Her touch felt cool and faintly electric. They exchanged names, and she told Marcus how deeply her people hoped for peace. Marcus replied with the usual platitudes, honored, privileged, but inside he wondered how he would handle the real test, meeting Ambassador Lysara in person. A hush fell over the crowd as two ivory doors slid open. All eyes turned. Lysara entered. She moved with a calm grace, each step seeming to float. Her features were finely shaped, her eyes like pools of quicksilver. She wore a robe woven from threads of light that shifted in color as she moved. Around her neck hung a simple pendant, a single crystal that glowed softly. Marcus remembered the reports. She was one of the last telepaths among her people, a bridge between minds. Lysara paused on the dais and looked at each assembled delegate. Then her gaze settled on Marcus. He felt a tingle run down his spine, as if her eyes were scanning his very thoughts. He raised his chin and offered a steady look. A gentle smile curved her lips. The music ceased, and a translator drone hovered above the dais, ready to transmit her words to every delegate. "My friends, from Earth," her voice rang in Marcus's mind and through the drone in clear English. "We welcome you to Aurelia's first shared outpost in this sector." Her tone was warm, but there was power behind it. Marcus heard no fear, only confidence. He nodded, and the crowd murmured in approval. Lysara's lips curved again, and she leaned forward slightly. Then she spoke again, this time in a lower, intimate tone that the drone struggled to broadcast. Marcus heard her voice twice, once in his mind and once through the drone's speakers. "Marcus Vance," she said, her telepathy like a soft caress. "You are mine." Marcus blinked and gave a nervous chuckle. He straightened his shoulders. The words sounded like a joke, a playful tease in the midst of serious ceremony. He laughed out loud. Around him, delegates exchanged puzzled looks. He tried to catch Lysara's eye, but she stood perfectly still, her expression unreadable. The translator drone piped up with a crisp tone. Its speaker crackled. "Ambassador Lysara has declared a binding betrothal vow under Aurelian custom," it announced. "Under our law, this vow cannot be broken without a formal act of interstellar diplomacy." Suddenly the air felt heavier. Marcus's laughter died in his throat. He felt every head turned toward him. The Aurelian diplomat beside him looked worried. Human envoys behind him exchanged hurried whispers. Marcus swallowed hard. He forced a smile and raised his palms in a gesture of innocent surprise. Lysara's hand drifted to her pendant. The crystal glowed a touch brighter. She inclined her head slightly toward Marcus. Her telepathic voice brushed against his mind again, soft and certain. "It is real." Marcus closed his mouth and let his shoulders drop. He had expected many things on this mission, new discoveries, political challenges, even danger. But never this. As the translator drone replayed the vow in every common tongue, Marcus felt the weight of centuries of Aurelian custom settle upon him. He stared at Lysara's calm face. His heart pounded. The hall was silent save for the soft hum of the outpost's life support systems. Marcus realized that from this moment on, nothing would be the same. And so, under glowing banners and alien stars, the veteran explorer found himself bound by a promise he had barely begun to understand. Marcus Vance stood in the cool marble foyer of the Earth Alliance Embassy on Andromeda Outpost, feeling suddenly very small. His mind replayed Ambassador Lysara's words, "You are mine," again and again. Around him, Earth diplomats clustered in anxious groups, their voices low but urgent. Marcus drew a slow breath. He was a soldier and explorer, not a politician. Yet here he was, the center of a diplomatic storm. A tall human envoy, Director Helen Shaw, approached with her tablet clutched in one hand. Her brow was furrowed, and she spoke briskly. "Marcus, we need your statement. Do you admit knowledge of the vow?" Marcus shook his head. "I thought she was joking. I laughed. I didn't know it was binding." He raised his hands in a gesture of helpless honesty. Helen sighed. "I believe you. But under Aurelian law, betrothal vows are absolute. Breaking one without mutual agreement could be seen as an insult to their entire species." She tapped her tablet, scrolling through diplomatic protocols. "We're negotiating. They insist we honor the vow or face a formal protest." Marcus nodded. His throat felt tight. "Tell them I respect their customs. I'll learn whatever I must." Helen gave a curt nod. "Good. We'll buy time, but you must cooperate with the Aurelian tutors. They start tomorrow." That afternoon, Marcus found himself guided down a glass corridor into a circular chamber. Seated on cushions of soft, iridescent fabric were three Aurelian tutors, a philosopher, a historian, and a cultural officer. Their skin shimmered faintly, and their eyes held a curious mix of warmth and scholarly interest. At the center of the circle floated a translucent sphere glowing with pale blue light. Marcus settled onto the nearest cushion and waited. The philosopher, named Thalen, spoke first in careful English. "Explorer Vance, to understand our customs is to respect our bond. The vow you received is called the Sari Alun. It binds two souls, not just two individuals." He gestured to the sphere, which projected images. Two figures joined by lines of light, then scenes of shared memories and emotions. Marcus watched, fascinated and uneasy. The historian, Ilara, added, "The Sari Alun dates back millennia. It honors the deepest trust two beings can share. Breaking it shatters not only personal ties, but the social fabric of our people." She tapped the sphere again, and it showed an ancient ceremony under shimmering skies on Aurelia Prime. Her voice was gentle but firm. Finally, the cultural officer, Merrick, unfolded a slim tablet and slid it to Marcus. "You will study our language, our traditions, and the meaning behind each symbol you will encounter. Knowledge will guide you." His tone was practical, almost military. Marcus felt a flicker of relief. This was something he could do over. The next hours, Marcus pored over texts and holographic lectures. He learned that Aurelian marriages were as much mental as they were ceremonial. Vows were exchanged in private telepathic circles, where each partner shared memories of joy, sorrow, and hope. The Sari Alun bound those memories so deeply that two lives became intertwined. It was beautiful and terrifying. By evening, Marcus exited the chamber blinking. The outpost's gardens glowed under artificial moonlight, and gentle music drifted on warm air. He navigated winding paths of glowing flowers and standing stones. He needed a moment alone to process what he'd learned. He found a bench beneath a tree whose blossoms pulsed with pale lavender light. He sank onto it and let his mind roam, He thought of Earth, of simple pledges and rings on fingers. Here the commitment was deeper. He wondered if he was ready. A soft voice broke his reverie. "You're thinking too hard." Marcus looked up into Ambassador Lysara's calm face. Her robe of shifting light made her look like a living star. She sat beside him, her posture relaxed. Marcus managed a tight smile. "Hard not to think when I'm about to marry an alien telepath." Lysara's silver eyes gleamed with mild amusement. "Not marry," she corrected gently. "Betrothed." She paused. "Marriage comes later after we prove ourselves worthy," he exhaled. "I keep forgetting there's a whole court behind this." Lysara nodded, her gaze drifting to the glowing blossoms. "The Council of Elders watches every step. They respect our union only if we both contribute. You must learn our ways and I must learn yours." "How do you see my ways?" Marcus asked, curious. "Your laughter," she said softly. "It is human, unpredictable but honest. It lightens the burden of ceremony." Her words touched him. "Then your laughter stays," he replied, voice warm. "As long as it does not shatter any customs." She smiled, a real genuine curve of lips. "Then we shall laugh together." They sat in companionable silence, watching petals drift like starlight. Later that night, Marcus returned to his quarters, where Helen Shaw waited. Her expression was hopeful. "Diplomacy is holding," she reported. "Aurelians agreed to a delay in the formal ceremony. They accept your cooperation as proof of goodwill." She handed him the diplomatic communique. "Be prepared. The council will announce the trial soon." Marcus tucked the papers under his arm. "Trial?" he echoed. Helen nodded. "Yes. A public test of your empathy and respect for Aurelian values. If you pass, the council will consent to the marriage. If not..." She let the sentence hang. "Well, we best not think about that." That night, Marcus lay on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. Memories of Earth felt distant. Ahead lay Aurelian trials, customs, and the reality of a vow he barely understood. Yet he also felt a thrill. This was more than a mission. It was a chance to bridge two worlds through respect, humor, and perhaps something deeper. He closed his eyes, imagining Lysara's eyes of quicksilver. He vowed silently to learn all he could, to respect her people's ancient ways and to prove that humanity's strength lay not just in technology or courage, but in its ability to connect, heart to heart, mind to mind. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he thought he might even look forward to the day he truly could laugh together with her. Early the next morning, Marcus boarded the Starliner bound for Aurelia Prime. He gazed out the wide viewport as the ship left Andromeda, outpost behind. Soft hum of engines filled the cabin. Light from distant stars streaked past. Marcus felt both excitement and nerves. He thought of Lysara waiting for him on the capital world. He checked his uniform and pack one more time. The crew moved with calm purpose. Passengers spoke in low tones. Marcus closed his eyes and let himself imagine the glowing city ahead. He braced for whatever awaited him on Aurelia Prime. When the ship docked, Marcus stepped onto a landing platform, carved from pale crystal. The air smelled warm and gentle, like spring rain. He followed a moving walkway toward the exit gate. Around him, domes of polished glass rose like giant bubbles. Between them stood tall spires of smooth white stone. Beneath each spire, fountains of mist danced in colored lights. Aurelian attendants in silver vests guided him with bows. Their voices were soft but clear. At the gate, Ambassador Lysara awaited, her robe shining in soft blues and greens. She smiled as Marcus approached. Lysara led Marcus out of the terminal and into a grand plaza. The ground glowed with living tiles that pulsed under each step. Marcus walked beside her in quiet awe. They passed trees whose leaves floated like lanterns. Nearby, fish swam through air in transparent tubes. Lysara pointed to a fountain where water fell upward. "Our art and nature blend," she said in gentle tones. Marcus nodded. He pressed his palm to a tile and felt a warm pulse. It feels alive, he said. Lysara's eyes lit. This world grows with us, she said. They reached a hall of memory, a glass building with walls of flowing light. Inside, Lysara invited Marcus to share in her first contact with humans. She placed her hand on his arm. In his mind, he saw a vision. A small scout ship touching down on Aurelia Prime long ago. He saw Lysara's surprise at human voices, her joy at their laughter, her wonder at our simple curiosity. Marcus watched her own memories flicker like scenes in a dream. He felt honored and calm. When the vision faded, he smiled and thanked her for the gift of trust. Marcus then offered a memory of Earth. He focused on his childhood home under a bright summer sun. He shared the smell of fresh grass and the sound of children playing nearby. Lysara closed her eyes and listened. He sensed her warmth and approval. In that moment, their minds met without words. Marcus felt a light touch on his thoughts. Lysara's, laughter at his simple memory. He opened his eyes and saw her gentle smile. Their bond felt both new and deep. Marcus realized he was not alone in this journey. Next, Lysara took Marcus to a spice market on a floating platform above glowing rivers. Stalls displayed fruits that glowed like lanterns and breads that hummed softly when broken. A vendor offered Marcus a small, round snack. "Try this," Lysara urged. Marcus bit into it and tasted sweet, tangy flavors unlike anything on Earth. He laughed at the strange texture. Lysara joined in, curious about his reaction. She tasted a slice of Earth pizza he carried in a compact tin. She blinked at the melted cheese and soft crust. "It is delightful," she said. Marcus grinned. "You have good taste." As dusk fell, the city held a simple dance celebration. Lights rose from the ground in graceful arcs. Music drifted over the plaza, gentle and rhythmic. Lysara guided Marcus to a circle of dancers. He tried to mimic their slow, floating steps. The plaza's low gravity made each movement light and slow. At one point, Marcus slipped and spun in a gentle arc before landing on his feet. He laughed so hard the other dancers joined him. Lysara's laughter rang in his mind and in the air. The moment felt free and joyful. By the time the celebration ended, Marcus and Lysara found a quiet balcony overlooking the glowing city. The twin moons of Aurelia Prime hung low, and the air was soft with scent of night flowers. Marcus leaned on the railing and felt calm happiness. Lysara stood close, her shoulder brushing his. He realized they had crossed strange worlds together in a single day. Their steps had been awkward and joyous. He turned to her in the soft moonlight. In simple words, he said, "Thank you for sharing this world with me." Lysara's eyes shone with warmth. That night, as Marcus settled into his guest quarters, he felt a steady excitement. He had seen wonders beyond his dreams and shared memories deeper than ceremony. He thought of the trials ahead, but also of the bond he was building. He knew the Council of Elders would test him, but he felt ready. Tomorrow he would learn more and his journey with Lysara would continue. In the quiet of Aurelia Prime, Marcus slept with a heart full of hope and laughter, eager for what dawn would bring. Marcus Vance awoke to the soft glow of Aurelia Prime's twin suns filtering through gauzy curtains. Today he would learn the ceremonial steps of the Saria Lune, the grand vows that would precede any marriage. He dressed carefully in the white robe supplied by the Aurelian court, its fabric threaded with strands of shifting light. He felt both honored and nervous. He had practiced many drills in his life, but never a ritual as delicate and precise as this. An attendant guided him down marble stairs into a wide chamber. The walls were carved with gentle curves, and floating lanterns drifted above like glowing blossoms. At the center of the room stood a low platform draped in silver silk. 2 cushions of pale violet lay ready. Lysara stood by the platform, her robe gleaming in soft green and gold. She bowed her head slightly in greeting. Marcus bowed in return, tipping his head with a faint smile. Their first lesson came from Marek, the cultural officer who had coached Marcus before. Marek spoke in calm, clear tones. The vows require precise body language. Each movement must flow like water. If a step is too fast or a gesture too wide, it can offend. We begin with the greeting of minds. He waved his hand, and the platform's upholstery dissolved into a smooth glass circle. He continued, "Stand facing each other. Extend your right hand palm up, then close your eyes. Feel without seeing." Marcus and Lysera stepped onto the glass. He lifted his hand as instructed. For a moment he sensed only his own pulse. Then a gentle warmth flowed into his mind. It was Lysera's presence, calm and welcoming. He opened his eyes. She had the same soft smile. He bowed his head and she bowed hers. The glass circle brightened. Marcus felt safe and proud. Next came the dance of light. Lysera demonstrated first. She moved in slow arcs, her robe leaving trails of color behind. Her feet barely touched the ground. Marcus tried to mimic her. His steps were too bold. He lifted, his knee too high. He stumbled and his foot slipped on the glass. He caught himself just in time, but let out a startled grunt. Lysera paused, her eyes wide. Marek shook his head gently and guided Marcus back. "Slow down, Explorer Vance. Imagine, you float on water." Marcus nodded. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and tried again. This time his steps felt lighter. He moved in gentle half circles, matching Lysera's rhythm. The trails of light from his robe began to shimmer. He opened his eyes and saw Lysera clap softly. After the dance, they practiced the exchange of memories. Ilara, the historian, joined them. She held a small crystal orb that pulsed with pale blue light. "Each partner shares a memory of hope and a memory of sorrow," she explained. Then the orb binds them. She handed the orb to Marcus first. He glanced at Lysera, whose silver eyes watched him kindly. He held the orb and thought of his home on Earth. He chose a memory of hope. His first steps onto a new planet, the sun bright and welcoming. He spoke softly, describing the feeling of soft soil under his boots. The orb glowed brighter. Then he chose a sorrow. The day his childhood home was lost to flooding. He spoke of the rushing water and the fear he felt. The orb's glow dimmed. Lysera stepped forward and placed her hand on his. He felt a tingle through his arm. Then she closed her eyes and spoke her memories. First, the birth of her sister, a moment of pure joy. Then a memory of war on ancient battlefields, loss of friends. As she spoke, Marcus sensed waves of emotion in his mind, joy, grief, and acceptance. When she finished, the orb shone steadily, its light now a blend of blue and violet. Ilara S. smiled. "The bond grows. Well done." By midday, Marcus felt the weight of each ritual step. He had learned the greeting of minds, the dance of light, and the exchange of memories. He was proud, though his body ached from strain, and his mind felt full. Lysera led him to a balcony overlooking the city. Tables were set with colorful foods, fruit that glowed like embers, cakes that hummed when cut, and pastries filled with spiced creams. They sat side by side and sampled dishes. Marcus laughed when he bit into a pastry that popped softly on his tongue. Lysera laughed too, her eyes bright. "You laugh like the wind," she said in his mind. He grinned. "I laugh because your world is full of surprises." As afternoon light softened into dusk, they returned to the ceremonial chamber for the final rehearsal. This time Marek stood at the dais to observe. Now perform the full sequence without instruction. He raised his hand, and the chamber fell silent. Marcus and Lysera began. They bowed in greeting, extended their hands, closed their eyes, and felt each other's presence. They danced in gentle circles, the trails of light from their robes weaving patterns on the floor. They exchanged the orb and spoke memories. Each movement was careful, fluid, full of meaning. Halfway through, Marcus nearly missed a step in the dance of light and nearly toppled into Lysara. The orb rolled off the platform. Marcus lunged to catch it, but instead he slipped and landed on one knee. Lysara gasped and reached for him. For a heartbeat, the ritual seemed broken. Then Lysara's hand rested on his shoulder. She spoke in his mind, calm and gentle. "It is only flesh. True bond needs no perfection." Marcus looked up and met her eyes. He rose, holding the orb. They shared a quiet smile. The orb glowed stronger than before. Merrick stepped forward and bowed deeply. "Explorer Vance, Ambassador Lysara, you have learned more swiftly than any pair I have seen. You honor the Sari Alun." He clapped once. The chamber lights brightened in celebration. Marcus felt a rush of relief and pride. He looked at Lysara, whose smile warmed his heart. In that moment, he knew that while customs and dances mattered, true connection lay in understanding and forgiveness. As they left the chamber, Lysara slipped her hand into his. Marcus felt the warmth of her touch. He squeezed her fingers gently and smiled. The path ahead still held trials and ceremonies, but he felt ready. Together, they would walk it, step by careful step. The Council of Elders had gathered in the Grand Hall of Reflections to announce Marcus's next challenge. He stood before them with Lysara at his side. The hall's walls were smooth and pale, lit by gentle pulses of light that seemed to breathe with the room. Seated in high chairs, the elders watched in silence as the chief elder, a tall Aurelian, with silver hair and deep-set eyes, spoke. "Explorer Marcus Vance," the elder intoned, "you have shown respect for our customs and grace in your lessons. Yet the Sari Alun demands more. You must prove your empathy." A panel in the floor slid open, revealing a dark passage beyond. Enter the labyrinth of echoes. Inside, you will face visions of sorrow and hope. Only by guiding them to peace. Will you earn our consent? Lysara squeezed Marcus's hand. Her calm presence steadied him. He nodded once, then stepped onto the moving floor panel. It bore him down into twisting corridors lit by pale blue lights. His footsteps echoed softly against the smooth walls. As he walked, the light shifted in color from blue to lavender, marking the threshold of the labyrinth. Ahead, a holographic scene bloomed into view. It showed a village of small, fragile homes built along a ravaged riverbank. Holographic. People knelt beside empty wells, their faces drawn with hunger. Marcus felt a pang of sorrow. He walked forward, his boots whispering on the smooth floor. A child looked up at him with wide eyes. In his mind, Marcus heard the child's unspoken question, "Will you help us?" Marcus knelt and spoke softly. "I'm here to help." He placed a hand on the child's shoulder. Then he studied the empty well and saw a faded inscription on its rim. He wiped dust away with care and read the words, "Water gives life. Share it freely." Nearby stood 2 broken pipes. Marcus knelt, examined them, and used a small tool from his belt to reattach a pipe joint. Water began to flow, filling the well. The villagers cheered, and the hologram's tone brightened. The scene dissolved into a glowing symbol on the wall, a silver spiral. He pressed the symbol lightly, and the corridor shifted. Now he entered a grand plaza, where holographic figures wore fine robes. They stood around a fallen statue of an Aurelian hero. Some mourned, others whispered in fear. Marcus felt tension in the air. He approached a group of scholars. One turned and spoke. "Our memory of him fades. Without his example, we lose our courage." Marcus looked at the broken statue and raised a clear voice. "Your hero's deeds are not in stone but in your hearts." He reached into his pack and retrieved a small hollow recorder. He recorded the scholars recounting their memories of the hero, stories of kindness, bravery, and sacrifice. Then he played the recording aloud. The plaza filled with echoes of proud voices. Holographic figures lifted their heads. Light returned to their eyes. The statue reformed, shining bright. Another spiral glowed on the wall. Breathing steadily, Marcus moved deeper into the maze. The walls narrowed, and the lights dimmed to silver. Soon he stood before a quiet room. In its center lay a lone figure on a wooden bed. The hologram showed an Aurelian soldier, eyes closed, a single tear tracing a pale cheek. A gentle hum filled the air. Marcus knelt beside the figure and placed a hand over its heart. He closed his eyes to listen. In his mind, he felt the soldier's loneliness and sorrow. Marcus drew on his own memories of nights alone on lonely patrols, longing for home. He opened his eyes and spoke softly. "You are not forgotten." He placed a small seashell from Earth on the table next to the figure. It was smooth and worn by tides. Marcus explained that on Earth, people keep shells to remember faraway places and loved ones waiting. The figure's chest rose with a deep breath. A final spiral glowed and the walls shifted again. Now the exit stood before him, a bright doorway shaped like a spiral of silver light. Marcus took one last look at the labyrinth's interior, its echoes of memory and hope. He stepped through, into a chamber where Lysara waited, her eyes shining with pride. Behind her, the council of elders stood in a semicircle. The chief elder spoke quietly. "Explorer Vance, you have guided sorrow to healing and shown compassion where it was needed. You have proven your empathy." The elder extended a crystal token, a spiral of blue and violet light swirling within. "This binds you and Ambassador Lysara in spirit." Marcus accepted the token with both hands. He felt a warm pulse as the spiral's light matched the beat of his own heart. He looked at Lysara, who stepped forward and took his hand. Their joined hands glowed faintly. Outside the grand hall, the sun of Aurelia Prime shone bright on marble columns. Marcus smiled at Lysara. She returned his smile, and together they walked into the light. The path ahead would hold the final ceremony, but now they walked it united, bound by empathy, respect, and a shared promise to bridge two worlds. The news, holofeed crackled to life in the grand plaza of Aurelia Prime. Marcus Vance and Ambassador Lysara stood before a gathering of citizens, diplomats, and reporters from many worlds. The bright spires of the city glowed behind them, and twin moons hovered low in the sky. Marcus felt his heart pound with excitement and pride. After the trial of empathy, they had become symbols of unity. Today's event would show both humans and Aurelians that two very different peoples could work together. A human news crew hovered nearby, their cameras trained on Marcus and Lysara. Reporters asked questions in quick succession. "How do you feel after passing the trial? Will you marry under Aurelian law? What advice do you have for Earth-Aurelian relations?" Marcus smiled and answered each calmly. He spoke of respect, understanding, and the power of shared laughter. Lysara translated his words telepathically into Aurelian, and the crowd listened, some nodding, others whispering in surprise at the sound of human speech. After the press conference, a small group of Earth diplomats approached. Their leader, Ambassador Helen Shaw, gave Marcus a firm handshake. "You did well," she said. "The Council of Elders is impressed. Politics on Earth are watching closely." Marcus nodded. "I hope this shows them that friendship can cross any barrier." Helen smiled. "It already has. You and Lysara are a living promise." She stepped aside and Lysara took Marcus's arm. Together, they walked through the plaza, waving to well-wishers, but not all faces in the crowd were friendly. A group of skeptics from an Earth colony on Epsilon Major stood apart. They carried signs reading, "Keep humans apart" and "No betrothal without vote." Their leader, a stern woman named Dr. Soren, spoke into her comlink. "This is tradition, not a joke," she said. "We cannot accept human unpredictability." Lysara saw the signs and paused. She turned to Marcus, her brow furrowed. "They do not understand us," she said softly. Marcus nodded. "Then we must show them why this bond matters." He stepped forward, raising his hands to quiet the crowd. "Friends," Marcus began, his voice clear and strong, "I understand your doubts. I know humans can be unpredictable, but today I stand here because I chose to learn your ways, to feel your joys and sorrows, and to honor your customs. I promise you now, I will stand with Lysara, with Aurelia, and with you." His words echoed through the plaza. Lysara placed her hand on his shoulder, are in support. The skeptics looked uncertain. Some lowered their signs. Others whispered among themselves. Aurelians in the crowd began to clap. Human onlookers cheered. Dr. Soren glanced around, then folded her arms. She stayed silent. Marcus felt relief wash over him. He had bridged the gap in one clear moment. Lysara smiled and gave him a gentle squeeze. They continued their walk to the council building, side by side. Inside the council building, a reception was in progress. Long tables held foods from many planets, glowing fruits of Aurelia, crisp breads from Earth, and spiced teas from distant colonies. Marcus and Lysara moved between tables, sampling dishes and greeting guests. Marcus offered Lysara a piece of earth fruit sweetened with honey. She bit into it, her eyes widening at the flavor. "Delicious," she whispered in his mind. Marcus grinned. "I thought you'd like it." At the head table, the Council of Elders sat in formal robes. The chief elder extended a hand to Marcus. "Explorer Vance," he said, "you and Ambassador Lysara have shown that two peoples can learn from each other. You have broken barriers." He handed Marcus a scroll sealed with silver wax. "This is a joint declaration of unity signed by leaders of both worlds. Will you accept it?" Marcus took the scroll respectfully. "With all my heart," he replied. Lysara nodded beside him. Together they broke the seal and read the words aloud. "United in trust, bound by empathy, we shape a shared future." Applause filled the hall. Humans and Aurelians rose to their feet. Marcus felt his cheeks warm. He looked at Lysara, whose face shone with joy. They turned back to the crowd, arms linked, and bowed together. Reporters snapped hollow images, and diplomats from dozens of worlds approached to offer congratulations. Later, in a quieter corner of the reception hall, Lysara led Marcus to a small balcony overlooking the city lights. The air was warm and scented with night blossoms. They stood in companionable silence, watching streams of light flow along the streets below. In the distance, rockets lifted off from a launch pad, carrying supplies to new outposts. Lysara spoke, softly, her voice in Marcus's mind. "Today you spoke for us both. You showed your empathy not only in the labyrinth, but in the open world." Marcus took her hand. "I spoke from the heart. You taught me to listen." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Together, we will face what comes next." Below them, the crowds began to disperse. Humans boarded shuttles back to their ships. Aurelians returned to their homes in the towers. The plaza lights dimmed with the approach of dawn on one side of the planet, and the glow of twin moons on the other. Marcus and Lysara lingered on the balcony, the promise of tomorrow shining in their eyes. As the first light of the new day touched the spires of Aurelia Prime, Marcus felt certain of one thing. The bond he shared with Lysara had already changed. Two worlds. Trials and ceremonies lay ahead. Most important, their wedding. But now, barriers had been broken, and together, they would write the next chapter of their story. Hand in hand, heart to heart. The morning sun of Aurelia Prime bathed the temple of light in golden rays. Tall crystal columns lined the entrance, each carved with spirals that caught the light and cast dancing patterns on the marble floor. Marcus Vance stood at the foot of the main staircase, dressed in a ceremonial robe of pale blue earth silk, its hem trimmed with threads of starlight. His heart thrummed with a mix of excitement and calm resolve. Today he would marry Ambassador Lysara, and with that marriage, seal the promise between two worlds. At the top of the stairs, Lysara awaited him. She wore a flowing gown of silver and violet, woven from living fibers that shivered with gentle light. Around her neck hung the crystal pendant from their first meeting, now entwined with the spiral token from the trial of empathy. Her eyes, like quicksilver pools, held warmth and pride. When she saw Marcus, she offered a serene smile that reached deep into his soul. Marcus climbed the stairs and stopped before her. The council of elders formed a semicircle behind Lysara, robed in shades of white and lavender. Earth diplomats stood to Marcus's side, including Director Helen Shaw, her expression both joyful and solemn. On the far side, Aurelin scholars and citizens gathered, scientists, artists, and ordinary families, all watching with hopeful faces. A hush fell as the chief elder stepped forward. Her silver hair framed a calm face, lined with years of wisdom. She spoke in a voice soft yet clear. Today, under the twin suns and in the presence of many witnesses, we honor the union of two souls bound by respect, empathy, and laughter. This ceremony blends Earth tradition with Aurelian rite. May each step you take together light the path for our worlds. She gestured, and soft music began, a harmonious blend of human strings and Aurelian wind chimes. Marcus reached for Lysara's hand. Together they descended the steps into the central plaza, where a circular dais awaited. The dais was rimmed with living flowers that opened as they approached, petals unfolding in greeting. First came the greeting of minds. Marcus and Lysara stood face to face, right hands raised on the dais. They closed their eyes and let their thoughts meet. For a heartbeat, Marcus felt only his own heartbeat. Then a gentle wave of calm assurance flowed from Lysara. He sent back his own warmth, the echo of his promise. The dais glowed softly under their joined hands, and the crowd exhaled in shared wonder. Next was the dance of light. Gentle breezes stirred around the plaza, carrying petals of pale lavender. Marcus and Lysara moved in slow, floating steps around the dais. Each step left a faint trail of light beneath their feet. Marcus remembered his first clumsy attempts and felt gratitude for Lysara's patience. Now his movements were fluid, guided by trust. Lysara matched him with grace, her robes of living light weaving colors around them. The crowd watched in silent awe as the couple moved as one. When the dance ended, they approached the central crystal altar. Ilara, the historian, presented the orb of unity, a pale sphere pulsing with blue and violet energy. Marcus lifted the orb and turned to Lysara. He spoke in clear, heartfelt tones. I promise to honor your mind as you have honored mine, to share my joys and bear your sorrows, and to walk beside you always. He placed the orb gently on the altar. Lysara touched the orb next. Her telepathic voice filled Marcus's mind. I promise to cherish your laughter, to learn from your courage, and to hold your heart as my own. Together our worlds will grow closer. As she spoke, the orb's light surged and sent beams of colored radiance over the plaza. The living flowers bloomed brighter, and the crowd softly cheered. The chief elder lifted her hand for silence. She retrieved 2 rings, one a simple band of earth metal, the other a delicate filigree of Aurelian crystal. She handed Marcus the crystal ring, and Lysara the metal band. Exchange these rings as a sign of your bond, she instructed. Marcus slipped the crystal ring onto Lysara's slender finger. The crystal pulsed at her pulse point, warm to the touch. Lysara placed the metal band on Marcus's finger. It felt solid and true. As the ring settled, a harmonious chime filled the air. The rings glowed in unison, a symbol of unity that shone for all to see. Finally, the chief elder pronounced them wed. I now declare you bound in Sarialun and marriage, in spirit and in law. She smiled and bowed her head. Marcus and Lysara turned to face the gathered crowd. Marcus raised Lysara's hand, and cheers rose from diplomats and citizens alike. Humans clapped, Aurelians hummed approval, and reporters captured the moment. For every world. After the ceremony, a feast awaited in the temple gardens. Long tables held dishes from Earth, fresh fruits, baked breads, sweet pies, and Aurelian specialties, light-infused pastries, spiced nectar drinks, and living salads that changed flavor with each bite. Laughter and music filled the air. Marcus offered Lysara a taste of earth chocolate. She laughed at its sweetness. Lysara shared a petal salad that shimmered on Marcus's tongue. He smiled in delight. As night fell, Lanterns of bioluminescent plants cast a gentle glow over the celebration. Marcus and Lysara stepped onto a small stage by a fountain that danced upward in glowing arcs. Lysara spoke softly into Marcus's mind and aloud, "Thank you, friends of Earth and Aurelia. Today we begin a new chapter. We invite you to walk with us, side by side." Marcus echoed her words in Earth Standard. "Together, we will build a future where our worlds learn from each other, respect each other, and share laughter across the stars." The crowd responded with unified cheers. The fountain's water shot higher, catching the light like living rainbows. Marcus looked at Lysara, her face illuminated by joy and promise. He felt in that moment the deep bond they had forged through trials, dances, memories, and tears. Two worlds had come together, and their union would guide the galaxy toward peace. Under the shimmering moons and the watchful stars, Marcus and Lysara held hands and stepped forward into their shared future, an explorer and an ambassador, bound by love, respect, and the hope of all who believed that humanity could reach the stars, not just with ships, but with open hearts.